East Carolina is not a school that is typically known for producing a ton of NFL talent, and they've been at the bottom of the FBS for quite some time. They are a school that has never had a top 20 pick in their school's history, and they also haven't had a first round pick since 2008. Overall, East Carolina has produced 2 first rounders in their school's history, but it looks like there could be a third name joining that list, because cornerback Shavon Revel is one of the best cornerback prospects I have watched over the last handful of drafts, and he is rapidly moving up draft boards. How high should Revel ultimately be taken in the 2025 NFL Draft? That is what we will be going over in today's video. But hey guys, if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon. For $5 a month, you guys will get exclusive access to my draft guide, player evaluations, and even more draft content than I put out on YouTube. If you want to get a head start on the rest of this draft class, I highly recommend checking it out. Leave a comment and let me know which players you guys want to see in a future video, and without further ado, let's take a closer look at Shavon Revel. Revel has been incredibly productive for the Pirates over the past couple of seasons. In 2023, he put up some incredible numbers. In 328 coverage snaps, Revel allowed 19 receptions for 250 yards and a touchdown. He also posted 1 interception and 10 pass deflections. Early in 2024, he has been awesome for ECU. He already has surpassed his interception total from last year with 2. He has 2 pass deflections and a pick 6. He has allowed 8 receptions for 195 yards and has quietly been one of the best cornerbacks in this draft class, and I don't think a lot of people have really given him the praise he deserves. One of the things that sticks out instantly when you watch Revel's tape is his absolutely phenomenal size. He is listed at 6'3", 193 pounds, but he looks even bigger than that. When he was lined up against some of these receivers, he just towered over them, and he looked like he was by far the biggest guy on the field, and that's something that I'm really intrigued to see at the next level, because he's got incredible size and length on the outside. There are so many impressive tools that Revel plays with, but his movement abilities are incredible. He can stop and go on a dime. He has incredibly fluid hips, and he has elite closing speed. His long speed is also a major standout, however. I don't think he's the fastest guy in this draft class, but he's certainly flashed the upside to stick with wide receivers deep and stay glued to his receiver's hip. I think his long speed is an underrated aspect of his game, and when it shows up, he flies. But his movement abilities, his ability to stop and go, his ability to change directions are at the top of this class. Revel is fantastic in zone coverage. He is incredibly smart and disciplined, and he's got some of the best closing speed of any cornerback in this draft class. His short area quickness was one of the most impressive traits I saw, and I love that about Revel. The last thing Revel does so incredibly well is tackle. He is one of the most fundamentally sound and sure tackler I've ever seen from the cornerback position in my 4 years of studying. He has a 5.7% missed tackle rate over his collegiate career and has a whopping 21 run stops. Those are incredible numbers for an outside corner, and it's something that I think is going to translate incredibly well to the NFL level because he does defend the run so well and he is such a good athlete. There are very few areas of weaknesses in Revel's game. Yes, he's a bit of an older cornerback prospect, but he's big, he's long, he's got great athleticism, good mechanics, and has elite production. Coming into the year, his ball skills were a concern that I had. He made good deflections on the football, but it didn't really produce a lot of interceptions. But through 3 weeks of the college football season, he already has 2 interceptions, so it's clearly something he worked on this offseason and he's gotten better at. You can talk about the competition level also being a concern, but Quinyon Mitchell was the first cornerback drafted in the 2024 draft, and rightfully so. I think his mechanics are something that you could argue could improve a little bit. Revel does have the tendency to play flat-footed at times, which heavily limits his ability to trigger downhill and close on the football the way you'd like to see. There are very few reps where it's very noticeable, but it is something that did show up quite a few times on tape, and it's something I definitely think he could get better at. Another thing I want to see a bit more of is Revel in press. It's not that he can't do it, but he primarily played in a heavy off coverage or zone scheme, and we haven't really seen him play a bunch of bump and run stuff. So I want to see him improve in that area a little bit more as well. Shavon Revel is a player I have been in love with since I turned on his tape. I was on him before it seemed like a lot of these experts were, and I've been talking super highly of him dating back to July. He is one of my favorite cornerbacks I have ever watched, and he would have been CB1 in each of the last 2 draft classes. That being said, this cornerback class is so loaded, and I think my take on him is going to be pretty controversial because he is my number 2 corner. I know a lot of people love Travis Hunter and a lot of people love Benjamin Morrison, but I think Revel has better tools than those guys. He's got all the tools in the world to be a legit number 1 corner at the NFL level, and I think his skill set translates super well. He is a top 10 player in the draft class for me. In terms of a scheme fit, I love Revel in a heavy off-man scheme. That's where he thrives at East Carolina, and his reaction time and quickness to the football is something that I think it's unparalleled. He does have the ability to run routes with wide receivers, something where he plays in an off-man coverage or heavy zone scheme I think would be ideal for Revel and his skill set. In terms of a player comparison, Revel reminds me a lot of Chicago Bears All-Pro cornerback Jalen Johnson. Johnson is a big cornerback who isn't the fastest player in the world, but he has elite abilities in that off-man or zone coverage scheme. Johnson has risen to be a top 3 cornerback in the NFL. He's a good tackler, he's got good ball skills, great size and length, and I think when you watch the tape, Revel has a lot of the same similarities that Jalen Johnson has, and that's my comparison for him. Shavon Revel is rapidly rising up draft boards. He has some elite traits and is so disciplined in coverage. As we saw with Quinyon Mitchell, competition levels shouldn't matter when scouting cornerbacks, and I think that Shavon Revel will be a first-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.